Welcome to the 16th program of Stepping Into the Light with your host, Bish at Behil Radio and Kankadi Radio for Tuesday, 3rd December 2024. It's the 154th program in all since we started 1st of January 2021, and that was our theme song, Exodus by Bob Marley. Yeah, that's our original theme song. So when you hear that, you know it's time to get everything together, link up your friends, your families, what's not, right? As we get into tonight's program. So, Maatotep to all listening and following this program worldwide. It's good to be here with you again for another program. As usual, we start by giving Isis. Isis, glory to the word, glory to the song, and glory to the power of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. Almighty creator of this universe, and I give thanks for your love, for your care, and for your guidance throughout the time, and for bringing I here for another program. Keep shining thy light into I path, as I go stepping into the light and on to Mount Zion. Blessed be the high rates of His Imperial Majesty, and Her Imperial Majesty, Haile Selassie and Empress Menen. One perfect balance. Blessed be the high rates of I ancestors in Heteru, which walk alongside I always, keeping I feet from slipping and falling, I hands from pilfering and stealing, and I hands from I mouths from slander and idle speaking. And I call on the goddess Maat, and the 42 divine ones from creation. Keep I people firmly on the 7 basic principles of truth, order, balance, harmony, law, morality, and justice. Give I life over death, light over darkness, mind over matter, and good over evil every time. Ashe. Yes, people, we're here again, and we are bringing you this program. Thanks to the owners and operators of Behil Radio and of Kankadi Radio, and also to the sponsors of the program. But most importantly, to you, the listeners to this program, who make it a reality. Make it a reality, yes. So, what are the happenings? We have 7 not a of the time. Development Institute. It's a agricultural research institute funded and well organized and put together by the governments of CARICOM to serve the member states. And they have been in St. Vincent since the 1970s, late 1970s, and they will be having Cardi Day, celebrating Cardi Day here on Thursday the 5th at their field station at Rabaka, Orange Hill. Okay? Make whatever input time. The first day of the first week of the last month of this year, the last calendar month and the last lunar month, the 12th calendar month and the 13th lunar month. So it's a new time, And of course, it was a new moon. And new vibes. You should be feeling it. If you're not feeling it, then you're not really in that level. You should be feeling the new vibe. Very truly into a flying by the moon phase guy, for fruits or roots and some of as usual to the I personally, along with some, right, along with some people who I spoke to, we have noticed that the dry season has started. Yes, we know that by looking at the forage, the foliar of the plants in the mountainsides, the rock, especially the lower mountain areas, what they call the hillsides. And we see definitely that the dry season has started. Because the signs are there. The plants have a different, the leaves of the plants have a different pressure. Seem to be getting some problem with the internet tonight. To try a different location. Okay? Probably we're getting a better location here. So we're going to look at that reason and see how best to prepare it and how best to produce in it. We need a fresh new approach to agriculture for 2025 and beyond. How do we start and where do we go? Look, and new announcement from the Honorable Minister of Agriculture. To combat predial loss from the Republic of China and Taiwan, and establish drone technology to assist, as they say, in the reduction of predial larceny. So we're going to look at some way into most of these things, if not all of these things tonight. Hope that the internet is not too unstable and that we get to do what we have to do properly. Yes. So I like to start with the new time, the new month, the new moon. It's not very often that you see this phenomenon happening, that on the same day, calendar day that is, the day is the first day of the last month, the last calendar month of the year, in this case, December, and it's the first day of the last lunar month. You know, there are 13 lunar months in a year, each having 28 days, 4 weeks of 7 days each. Right? So it's a new cycle of the moon starting on the same day. And it's the first day of the week. So all those things happened on Sunday. And on that day was the new moon, because it started the new lunar, which is the moon cycle, first day of that cycle, new moon. And these things carry a certain significance to them. First of all, it's a day when it is advisable that people celebrate, reflect, and pay homage to the ancestors. And of course, set your course properly for the rest of the month, whether it's the calendar month or the lunar month. And in farming, it's the first day of your new farming month. It's a new moon, and there are certain things which are best done in this phase which we are in right now. So I hope that a lot of people are making best use of the time positively and are going forward with it. That leads us into the Cardi Day, which will be celebrated on Thursday, the 5th December, at the Cardi Field Station, Rabaka. I think in my recollection, I think it's the subject to correction. I think it's the first day I'm hearing of this being celebrated in a big way in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And I want to say, send big kudos to all those involved, particularly Cardi leadership here and its staff, its entire staff. They have been working hard since the new leadership took over, Mr. Donovan Jackson. And they are definitely leading the way in certain agricultural initiatives, production of planting material, testing of varieties and so on, and, training of farmers in certain areas, root crops in particular. So I'll be there. But just to give you a reflection of what Cardi has done in the early times in this country, when it started in the late 1970s, when the first then country leader was no other one than the late Noel Curtin. And the other team members were Mr. Glenroy Brown and yours truly. Right? And later on, we had a brother who was in charge of the mechanical side, because Cardi did try out small tractors here. Cardi was the first organization, first institute to try out the walk-behind tractor. Okay? Yes. And that brother, call him Babsy, resides in New York. Yes, he's from Diamond. So, in those days, what did Cardi do? Cardi started with work in the multiple cropping trials. That is, planting several crops on the same piece of land at the same time, the same cropping season. Yes. And of course, these crops had to be very good companions to each other. And that was done in several areas, particularly where sweet potatoes were planted. We were mixing legumes and corn with sweet potatoes. And there were other mixes. And Cardi was also working on peanut production and development of technology and the transfer of that technology. Because our peanuts at the time were suffering badly since in the mid-1970s from what the farmers call cut off, where the needles, that is the part of the peanut which part of the plant which goes into the ground and form the nut, was cutting off before the farmer was ready to harvest. And we were using what they call at that time the runner nuts, local runner. That was the main peanut. And instead of farmers getting the expected yields of over 2,000 pounds per acre, farmers were getting 800 and 900 pounds per acre, and of course they were losing money. And nobody was losing more than the farmers who were sharecropping, whether half share or third share, because that was one of the land tenure systems that was in at the time. So Cardi intervened. First of all, it started in 1978, alongside the Ministry of Agriculture, the government that is, to to pre-test certain varieties with a certain tech pack. And a lot of this work was done, yes, at Diamond, right way, all these big concrete things going up at Diamond Estate, right in the front there. All that concrete that took that take up all that land, that good agricultural land. Yeah, we used a small piece of that land and tested these varieties and found out what was best and what technology was best. And then the transfer of the technology started in 1980 between Stubbs and Peruvian Vale, that entire area, mainly between Argyle and farmers from Calder and Argyle. And the results were astounding, great, way beyond the expectations of many, and way to the delight of the farmers who saw their yields increase more than 300%, more than 3 times on average. And they made money because there was a ready wholesale market at the St. Vincent Marketing Corporation at the time, who buying peanuts at that time. And you know what the price of peanuts was at that time wholesale? $2 EC per pound. Now you can't even you could hardly get a quarter pound for $2 right now. Technology introduced a new type of nut, which was the bunch nut, different varieties, 90-day from planting to harvesting to maturity, and some 120 days from planting to maturity. And that revolutionized the whole market for everybody. The inputs were changed. The soil itself was dealt with properly, using natural things like calcium in 2 forms, calcium carbonate, lime, white lime, and in the flowering stage, calcium sulfate, gypsum, to develop the nuts itself. And the program here was so successful both here and in Belize, that the funding agency who funded CARDI, and these are some of the things that we have to look, we the people, especially the higher people in these countries, the governing people and so on, if they are really for the people, they have to look out for. That the funding person, the country that funded CARDI, realized that if the farmers in Belize and in St. Vincent started making real money, because these are the ordinary people of the land, from things like peanuts, then it will impinge on their intended control of the market in this region. But you notice that we import all our peanut butter in this country and in most of the region. We would have been in a position today to manufacture a substantial quantity, if not all, of the peanut butter that we consume here every year, plus having peanuts for other things. But that is not what these people wanted. That is why in this dispensation, the governments in the region, if they really want to be for the people of the region, because many of them don't seem to want to be, and definitely are not by the way their actions, would have to ensure that they generate money which is not tied to these kind of underdevelopment activities, where the piper calls the tune in this case, as the people say. Because CARDI's funding for that particular program, was disrupted in many ways, and eventually the program went to naught. Why? Because small, ordinary people, many of them indigenous, the offspring of indigenous people in this country, and of course, in St. Vincent, we had a sizable Indian community who were excellent in groundnut production. Excellent. Still are. Right? If they were to actually gain that level of financial strength and independence, then that would not augur well for the powers that be. These are the kind of things as a country that we have to, as a people that we have to look at. We have to look deep and far in this time. That is why I said this is a new time. Not for just looking on the shadow on the level and you scum. Oh, no. You have to look deep, look far. Your vision has to be much more powerful. And if your vision not powerful, then you just don't stay in the way and be a humbug. Just step out of the way and let the youths come and those who have the vision and go forward with it, because you can't handle this fight. You have to be able to handle it, to be able to make the best of the time. So that is where we were with that. Cardi did a lot of work in sweet potatoes in this country. And of course, at that time, it assisted with the export of sweet potatoes and the competitiveness of our farmers and our traffickers when they took the produce from here to other countries. That is the sort of work that Cardi put in those days. Yes, very important work. Right up until the time with the turn of this century, with people like Kathleen Titus, who I think was the first female head of Cardi in this country. Probably still is. I don't think we had another female head since her. And working in conjunction with the Marketing Corporation at the time, at 2001, 2002, 2003, were able to take two other products from here, which never had a big market profile before, organized outside of the region, and make them into commodities which were exported weekly and in some cases fortnightly outside of the region, to the delight of many farmers. That's Dasheen. Yes, Dasheen. Before these pretty ones came in, like Pretty Marble, don't know what they're doing with them. And hot peppers. So Cardi has played significant, important roles in this country in terms of assisting farmers to go forward. And if I remember, McDowell, was it the brother's name, who handled the tractor? And what happened, instead of the government taking the work of Cardi and developing in it, carried forward, and making sure that the farmers were in a position to afford that technology and start and to transfer, they did nothing. They left it by the way, and everything fell apart. That is where we are where we are right now, hollering in the woods, and every now and again you hear some stray dog bark, but that's not a pack, and one hand can't clap. So right now, as the children in Camptown say, the whole agriculture system officially up there, they're whooping. They're not playing the real cricket. They're not even playing 2020. They're just pelting the bat. Things are not organized and synchronized in the best way. And that is why we are where we are. But we know what we have to do. We the people, and that's a good thing. We know what we have to do ourselves, and we know what we have to do collectively, and we are prepared to do what we have to do to go forward. Because we cannot allow any policies, whether they start outside or they start inside, to disrupt the liberty and the economy of our future people in this region, in this country going forward. We have to go forward, and we have to go forward productively. But right now, food is the most important thing on this earth. Food. And we have to make sure that we stand in a position where we are in control of the production, the transformation, the consumption, and the marketing of most, if not all, of our food. So Cardi feels they will be on Thursday, and yours truly will be there by the blessing of the Almighty and the guidance of the ancestors. I'll be there. And again, big up to the entire Cardi staff in this country. We have a lot of things to do. You still have to reclaim a lot of those things which you introduced. Cardi introduced things like some pigeon pea varieties which were not seasonal. They would bear 2, 3, 4 times a year. But this seed is not common among the people now. No, we have to get some of these seed and multiply them up again and spread them out again so that people have this food to help diversify and strengthen our agricultural sector, food sector, particularly things like legumes and, of course, vegetables. Cardi also developed things like the mung bean, which is another crop, a legume crop, short bean, which was used in the intercropping, of which, of course, when you use things like beans, legumes in the intercropping, they add nitrogen to your soil, which is one of the top mineral elements that all plants need. Okay? Now, this leads into the next thing I want to speak about, the very poor quality of our fruits, roots, and some vegetables locally grown. If you notice, even before Hurricane Beryl, which did a lot of destruction, destruction, but a lot of it for a reason, right? We have been losing, and we have lost regional market share significantly, and extra-regional market share even more significantly because of the poor quality of our exports, our fruits in particular, and in some cases our roots. And we have to take all the blame for that, because we have allowed ourselves as a people to be hoodwinked by the system, by the governments, and I said it's a plural, because it's been happening for a while. It's happening for a while. And by a lot of the foreign entities who the government hug up. And we don't think that's the problem. Most of us don't. We believe that these people are superior to us, when indeed they are quite inferior to us when it comes to these things. First of all, they have no cultural tradition of growing our foods in these areas. But they want you start to have the belief that they somehow have some superior knowledge to us. So what they say should be. And what we know from our own traditions, ancestors, and what we know from our own science should be forsaken. And their methodology is put in place. But you didn't know, because you close your mind to that they had hidden alternatives, hidden agendas to destroy our agriculture and to keep it at a certain level in order to promote a certain philosophy and keep our people at a certain level. And that is why we're here today. That is why more than 75% of our arable lands are lying idle and full of trumpet bush, trumpet tree, elephant grass, lemon grass, pudding vine, and these sort of things. That is it. And we are here wondering what hit us, when we should know what hit us and we should have seen it coming. It's never too late anyway. Because a lot of people are now getting to realize that they have been hoodwinked, and a lot of the youths who coming forward with that knowledge instilled in them from birth, that they have to do something. They're not going down that road. And that's a good sign. That is why I say we are in a new times, new vibes. And with this new moon phase coming up, I'm telling you, this is the start of a new dawn right here. We're into it. We're in a couple of days into it. Today is just the third, but it's a new dawn. And where we live in right now, the earth we live in, we're not going back to that. Where we live in last week, we're not going back to that. Forward, you're going. Forward, you're going. Very fast forward and very positively forward. Our fruits and our roots and the vegetables are of poor quality. Why? Principally, well, there are several reasons, but principally, the growing medium, which is the soil in which they are grown, has been left to deteriorate in terms of its fertility and its strength in terms of being able to produce crops which are resistant to a lot of the pests and diseases and to the climate, the vicious climate, manipulated climate that is around. That's one of the main reasons. The second reason is that we allow people, not our own people to hoodwink our politicians, because, these are very gullible people, all of them, gullible. And some of them feel from the time they get elected into these offices, they reach where they're supposed to reach, so they could talk down to the people, not realizing they should be the ones serving the people in the best way possible. Into doing all sort of foolish things in the agricultural sector, while on the backhand of it, they were introducing harmful products, pests and diseases, and other things into this country, and feeding the divide and rule, feeding the nullification of the development of farmers' organizations, so that farmers never had a collective strength. And when you add that to the pests and diseases, and then you add the biggest problem, social problem we had for a long time, pre last into that, you see the great difficulty that the farming sector has been under for the last 40 years. Great sector. Problem like joke. Because someone higher up and who finances these governments wanted our economy and our sociology to change from being strongly agricultural supported to be weakly agricultural supported and strongly tourism. And when you take that view, when you take that route, you see what is happening. See what is happening right here even today? Our poverty levels are the highest in living memory. The inactivity in the agricultural sector is a record. You can't reach higher than that. The inactivity, the lack of agricultural industries, the lack of agro-processing, the lack of food production, plus the inputs that we have been putting in the land are the worst we ever had. Even some products which are banned in the own country of manufacture and the own region are still used in this country. Because our farmers, they reach a stage, a lot of them now, where they don't want to know. They just believe, and from the time certain people certain thing, they're ready to put it in the ground. If your ground was like, the ground is the earth is a living thing. And if you want to treat your body the same way you treat the earth, 85% of you wouldn't have been alive today. You would have been gone a long time, because all you've been doing is poisoning yourself every day, every night. But you don't see anything wrong with poisoning the soil and the life of the soil. Well, this is a new time. And for those people who want to carry on that day, your days are severely limited. Severely limited. Yes. And in terms of trade, you have been disorganized. You have no organizations of any farmers standing now. That is something we have to correct immediately. In this time, farmers have to gain strength. Vendors have to gain strength. Traffickers have to gain strength. Ship owners, transporters, they have to gain strength. And we have to put all these strengths together. We're going to do that to get out of the darkness. That's the only way we could do it. Putting our strengths together. So all the dividers and the rulers, they have to go. They have to go and play their game somewhere else. Because we are in a new earth, a different earth, and we're not allowing people to encroach on this one. We're not going to allow people to encroach on this one. Once your soil is weak, whatever comes from it whatever produce comes from it will because you're not getting the best out of it. Your fruits would lack the nutrient density. They wouldn't have that content to make them, first of all, the shelf life would be short. And secondly, they wouldn't fill the nutritional these requirements of the person eating them. And we have noticed that, first of all, our soft fruits, what we call our soft fruits, our mangoes, our plums, our golden apples, these other things, took a big blow. Big blow in 2005, 2006, 2007. Well, even a little before that. Even since in the 1990s when we had the pink mealybug, which was just a continuous process. And in early 2000s, our soft fruits were banned from entering one of our biggest markets, United States market. Even people who came here on vacation, lots of people just take fruit to them when they're growing up. They couldn't do that because we were banned because of phytosanitary reasons, because we took too many things for granted. And we didn't stick as a team, as a people together to prevent that. Even now, even today, you go and look at 90% of the mangoes we have now. Right now is certain mangoes in season. And you get the early July season or late, regardless to what time you're looking at. Whether you're looking at the calendar year or you're looking at the lunar year. July mango, grafted as we call them in season now. But you look at the grafted now, and it's nothing like a grafted you used to pick 20, 30, 40 years ago. No, fluxy. It can't last 3 days on the shelf because it has not got the nutrient density. It doesn't have the food in it, the nutrients in it that the plants before had, because the soil is weak. The nutrients are not there, and nobody replenishing them, and the pest and disease suck out the rest. We have not done anything to that. So these are the things that we have to address going forward right now. We must get that. We must revive the taste and quality and shelf life of our fruits and our vegetables and our roots. Especially in our roots now. Well, before I go to that, in the fruits, like we have things like black sigatoka, which is an intentionally introduced disease in this place. But however, we know, some of us know the exact things to do naturally to get rid of it. Because we're dealing with the science of life, biology. And once the farmers agree that they're going to listen and follow those measures, then we will go and clear out of that. We could get rid of black sigatoka within a year. Once we decide to work together, we could get rid of that within a year. Yes. They think that they have us, but they don't have us. Then the root crops. You notice right now sweet potato scarce. I asked a couple brethren at random, what happened? You making any dukana this week? Or you putting on these people who make these things? Boy, you can't get sweet potato scarce. Sweet potato, a crop that this country has been championing for centuries, not decades. Centuries we have been championing sweet potato production in the region, known for a quality, international quality sweet potato. And a quantity where we was one of our largest export root crops. Today you're catching in any to get a sweet potato, a good sweet potato right now in St. Vincent. People who want to make pudding and dukun and so can't get enough to buy. For various reasons. Apart from the pest and disease problem in potato, the use of land, because of some foolish and unlawful, yes, I will say it in big ways, unlawful land control measures that are going down under these neo-colonial administrations that we've been having, where the state feels that they are in control of the land and they could tell farmers anything, which is not so. In reality, not so. But the farmers don't know because they have been taught to just believe. You know? And all they tell you is trust and obey, for there's no other way. And you swallow these things. But the youth these days, they're not getting past your throat, so they're not swallowing anything. They have to prove it. Prove it to gain that trust. Yes, they believe in anything, because that is not the way to go. So here we are, growing food which insects are attacking because, first of all, they have the wrong inputs into the land. When I was growing up and small, the inputs used to grow sweet potatoes are completely different. At least, a matter of fact, most people never use any chemical manures, although some was wrong at the time. They use a lot of pen manure. Now you can't even see cattle much want to see pen. That's one of the things to make sure that we have a drastic reduction in our livestock population, especially the ruminants, both large and small. Cattle, cheap and good. Sometimes you drive miles in this country without seeing a cattle, a cow or a bull. Okay? Then, of course, the varieties. And then, of course, you have now these type of fertilizers, as they call them, which don't last as long as drainify in the land. Once a shower rain comes, they're gone. Going to cause more destruction around the reef. So you can't catch your robin and your dodger and your spot when morning time come in the areas that the truth saying. And these decisions have not been made by agricultural scientists. They have been made by political scientists who want to control the agriculture. That's where we are in this region. That's where we are in this country. That is why things are so hard. So where in a country area a farmer could have planted an acre potato and dig several dozen sacks from it, and then the hitch now, the other people in the country region will go and get some of that, they call them sprout to cook. You don't get sprout again. So it has reduced the food, even in the rural areas, the availability of food and the quantity of food in the rural areas. So there's more hunger. People have to go and eat more fake food, ramen and all these kind of foolish things. And the type of fertilizer you put in, especially this one they call urea, and a lot of it comes here in a degraded state, all it does is put more water into your food. So when you harvest whatever you harvest, potatoes, you harvest them on a Thursday to bring on the market on a Friday. By Saturday, they ain't good, Anybody buy them and cook them inside. From the time you cook them on and eat all kind of black and blue spots. They're gone through. That is where we are. We have lost market share to every other significant food producer in the region. Market share in the region, so our tropicals have very little to carry, to trade, and the boat owners have very little to carry also. And locally here, our people who make pudding and dukun and so on can't get. So that is where we are. And that is where we live in, because we headed out of that darkness and headed into the light. Okay? So that is to address the very poor quality of fruits and roots and vegetables. Now the dry season has started. Yes, I am saying the dry season has started, meaning that you wouldn't get any more months with the amount of water that September, October, and not even talk about November, because November is exceptional. August, September, and October had. You're not going to get this kind of rainfall again for until next year. So between now and then, you have to conserve as much as you can. Every little sprinkler shower that comes, make sure you have some container, something to store it, to store a quantity. That is why it was so important for the government of this country and others to ensure that the real farmers, whether never mind where you have a home garden or whatever, had some tank, one of the tanks that were given to this country freely. Not to play politics with the tank, but to give the people the tank who need them and to make sure that they are fitted up properly. Because you cannot be saying one thing on one side of your mouth and doing something else. You're saying something on the other side. We are set out to reduce the cost, the importation of food by 25%. We could have done it to up to 35, 40% if this thing was implemented properly in the same time. By allowing the people preparing a proper program, which has not been done, so that the people could collect a significant portion of the rain that fall on their galvanized roof in the night, they would have somewhere to store at least 300-400 gallons of water properly. And that would have enabled them to use it to grow as much food as possible right in the yard. Those who have areas where they are near to rivers and streams, and you give them that, they would have stored water and they would have grown a lot of food right there. But a lot of people meet me, and they, up to yesterday, a gentleman from out in the countryside, and I was kind of surprised. He said since he got this little irrigation, the lines, drip lines from the government, he was expecting to have a tank, and he hasn't had a tank, and look how much rain coming then. So if they give them the tank now in the dry season, what they're going to put inside there? And this has been widespread because every administration I know in the last 40 years always want to play parties and politics with the development of the people. That's the problem. Always want to play some foolish game with the real development needs of the people. We the people have to come to a decision to say this for stop. You see what is happening in France right now? The French farmers have been so organized from a long time, centuries. We hear now we can't keep organized for 10 weeks. The French farmers, all of them don't vote for the same political party, all of them don't see the same policies. But when it comes to national things of a national issue, they close ranks. And that is what strong countries do. That is why countries like Ethiopia survive colonization up to today. All the groups in Ethiopia don't see the same way on certain issues. But when it comes to an issue affecting the nation and national issue, they close ranks. That is why Mussolini and those who sent him couldn't come through. They just couldn't come through. That is why they couldn't come through in the Battle of Adwa. Because at the national level, everybody closed ranks, but we don't seem to know when is a national level. The farmers of France right now have the government by its throat. They're not scared to do what they're doing. They have gone around government offices and built walls. In a matter of days, put up a wall, concrete wall. Because the government has taken a decision which is totally contrary to the development needs of the farmers in France. Contract they signed with some countries in South America to cut the market share of the French farmer significantly. Now here we don't concern about that. We're not concerned because everybody wants to clap their own hand. Nobody wants to join together. And it's not just the farmers alone, because what I learned from my 2 years studying in a French country is that when the farmers strike, the transport people strike to support them because they work to move the farmers. So when they strike, the dock people strike against us, pick it up too, because they move the produce. So it becomes a crippling effect on the whole country. But here, we always playing Freddy and cowardy. Because we don't know what we believe, we don't know. And we love to be divided. So that is one part of it, the dry season. The people who have been given all these vegetable seeds and all these different things that have been given out, we hope that they meet proper and healthy soil and that the farmers have the wherewithal to produce these, not in a glut and then after that there's nothing, but in a reasonably staggered manner. Yes, problem with this because every time we seem to be reaching a valid point on a clear day like today, dry day, we having problem. Why should we be having a problem with the internet today? We have to find a different way to make sure that our telecommunication systems are more effective than they are right now. Probably some people getting too much of a monopoly. Anyway, can't stop us from doing what we have to do. We have to do something. Okay? So, we know that Dread has a job to do, and he got to fulfill that mission. So we're going to take a ride. We're going to ride, not ride. Because we have things to do. And we got to fulfill this mission. So, the first song I asked for, you could bring it on, my brother. Because they're not going to get to where the foolishness is doing. We the people have work to do. Yes. We need a fresh new approach to the agriculture. And we're going to make sure it happens. Yes. We're going to take now word from our sponsors, get a station ID, and when we come forward, we go through with the rest of the program. We look at the biodynamic gardening planted by the moon phase. We look at the call for drone technology to help combat predial larceny, and then, of course, we address the issue of a fresh new approach to agriculture is needed. So we get a word from our sponsors, and then we come straight forward.
While in Antigua, travel with Oven Bully Bus services between Pigot's Village and St. John's on Old Firearm Road. We also conduct island chores 7 days per week, all in comfort, style, and safety. For more information, contact Oven Bully, 1268-764-2869. That's 1268-764-2869.
Boost your brand's visibility with Branding by Weeks. At Branding by Weeks, we are passionate about helping brands gain exposure and make a significant impact. Let us elevate your brand's visibility and reach new heights. Connect with us today by email at spweeks@hotmail.com or message us on WhatsApp, 613-866-8939.
This is Kankadi Radio, Canada Caribbean Development Initiative Radio. We cross borders, we network in search of opportunities for all peoples.
Island Size Souvenir and Clothing Store. We carry everything you need in souvenirs. T-shirts in all different sizes, cap, keychains, key rings, plaques and banners, magnets, ID holders, mugs, And we even carry St. Vincent flag. And that's not all. We carry Hawaiian style t-shirts and dresses, handbags with matching scarves. We also carry tie-dye dresses, shirts and tops. Everything in our store are made right here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So come on over and check us out. We are located at the cruise ship berth in Kingston, Island style.
Join your host, Ross Bishai, for Stepping Into the Light at Bihil Online Radio and Kankadi Radio. Ross Bishai steps into the light of food and agriculture, culture and liberty. Stepping into the light lifts the level of your self-consciousness, activates your collective security genetic code, raises your earthly vibrations. To win in this Armageddon, you must listen to Stepping Into the Light with host Ross Bishai. Yes, we're here again, and we're getting straight into the biodynamic gardening, planting by the moon phase guide for the period Wednesday the 4th December, that's tomorrow. December gone 4 days already, yeah? Right, tomorrow. To Tuesday 10th December 2024. Yes. And tomorrow will be the 4th, and we are already into the waxing crescent form of the moon. So, last program you were here, you were into the waning crescent. The old moon came and went. The new moon arose on Sunday, and it started waxing. That's getting stronger, right? And it's in a crescent form. And if you looked out earlier tonight, like an hour ago, you would actually see the beautiful crescent moon, for those who look at the moon. And this moon is giving us a chance this week, right up until December the 8th, when it will be that Sunday, the first quarter, to plant above ground annuals, above ground short crops, especially leaf plants. All right? Also corn, herbs, seasonings as they call them, cucumbers. Those are the crops that are best suited to be planted from seed in this time. It's also still a good time to mow your lawns and to graft and prune. Okay? So those of you who are who gonna do some seed setting, especially of leafy plants, do it in this time. You have from today, you have today is gone, so you have tomorrow, you have Thursday, you have Friday, you have Saturday, and you have Sunday. Make the best use of this time. Set those things. If you have things like celery, the earlier you set them in this week is the better, because celery takes a long time to burst, so they will need more days in this phase. And make sure you have everything proper, your proper potting soil, your proper containers where you're going to plant them in, whether it's seedling trays or whatever, right? Because you want the roots to have that root room and to develop properly. So that when you're ready to transplant, you don't have to upset the root too much and give the plant too much of a shock. Okay? Now Monday, which is the 9th, the moon is in this lunar month, is into the second phase. It's now waxing again, getting bigger, but it's in the gibbous phase now. It will be changed from the crescent phase to the gibbous. So that first quarter, the moon, almost like half moon, the moon already gibbous, all rounded, right? So that is this time you start to plant your fruit plants. But you could also continue to plant corn, and this is the time that you plant flowers or flowering plants. And of course, you can still mow lawns and graft and prune. Okay? And the same thing holds for next Tuesday, the 10th. So, between now and that time, we are in 2 moon phases. The waxing crescent phase, which is for the leafy crops basically, mainly, plus herbs, cucumbers and corn.
and the waxing gibbous phase, which are for fruit plants like sweet pepper, tomato, eggplants, these kind of things, finger breadfruit and so on. Your melons and these sort of things, squash, your pumpkins, vine crops. Also corn and flowering plants, flowers. Okay, right. So that is where the guide for this particular period goes. Now, I will encourage you to plant as much as possible, especially vegetables. Vegetables love this cool season. Right? Vegetables love this cool season in particular. And since we have passed the heaviest rainy period, you're getting a more favorable weather once you have water stored in which to grow vegetables going into the season. Normally, what we should have been doing right now, and we're going to say some things in the time going forward, Lord, is planting certain crops which love this weather, which we import a lot. I'm speaking about 3 crops in particular: onion, garlic, and Irish potato. For those who would like to plant Irish potato. But onion and garlic in particular, if in the future, that is what we're supposed to be. Right now, among other things, we also have to be planting things like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, romaine lettuce, because we import all these things. Carrots. These are the crops that we should be in the ground now and getting in the ground now. But we're not going to miss the boat again because we have been depending too much on a system that is not in sync with the way we need to go and where we have to go. We have to make sure that we take control of our own destiny. Okay? So we're going to look at the issue of the combating predial larceny with the drone technology, what they're saying. Now, predial larceny has been our number one social problem for decades. It has gotten worse particularly in the last 10 years. It was bad in the 90s, the 80s and 90s. It forced a lot of people, small women in particular, out of the small ruminants market, that is sheep and goat. You know, not everybody could bring the animals home in the night, and not everybody should be bringing the animals home in the night. So you have your farm and you pen your animals on your farm, or you tie them there and, somewhere, and then when you go in the morning, if you're lucky, you meet the train or the rope, and nobody was there to assist you in tracking it, or the system does not provide for you to be compensated in any way. Through the years, many recommendations have been made by several people. And recommendations have been made particularly for the livestock sector by using a tag, an electronic tag, under the skin of the animal and have it monitored from a central point where you could track the movement of the animal. With the advent of the drone in aeronautical science, drone technology has now risen to a level where it gives another dimension to patrolling using AI, the activities of people and animals on a farm. But, well, this is a very good initiative. This by itself will not work effectively. Any significant part of it. It's a little more balanced in the Grenadine, but you're on the mainland here, you don't want nothing. And not even the vendors or the fruit, the farmers are portrayed in the tourism brochures. Nope. And even online, when you go online and you see all these things going about, is the people who have the little niche market that's doing the work, and nothing wrong with them doing the work. But from the status point of view, you don't see tourists being welcome to go here and buy this kind of fruit or eat that or that, because there is no interest in stimulating the kind of agriculture and food production to draw the tourists here. Because for some reason, the system and its people, the gatekeepers and the puppet masters, do not want the ordinary person to rise to a certain level. So it's right there. So the tourists come here and they don't buy much food, because the same food they're seeing outside that they're seeing here. Nothing different, no variation, nothing at all. Makes no sense. But in this drone package, this pretty larceny package, one of the things, and we have to get rid of pretty larceny. And I am of the opinion that the minister and the Ministry of Agriculture are serious about getting rid of pretty larceny. But they get very little help from the system. First of all, the agricultural budget is totally and grossly underfunded. Has been so for decades. Totally and grossly underfunded. So what it needs to do, it can't get done. And then the farming sector is even more underfunded. Never mind all these things here, they say fashion handing out, you know. These are not things which are knitted into a program. So it's not a sustainable development effort. It's not a development effort. These things only happen when it comes near to a certain election cycle time. Why there is no development in the sector to talk about? Very little development. That's the problem. And if there's no development, whatever little growth it has makes no sense. It's just like a drop in the pan. It will peak and then fall, and then there's nothing. Scarcity and glut. A growth glut and a scarcity. But if it was development, then there would have been, sustainable production of everything. Because the groupings and the strength of the farmers' organizations and the other organizations within the agricultural sector are not there. And the reality proves it. The data proves it. The trade imbalance proves it. The lack of food proves it. The quality of food proves it. Everything is there. So don't even try to start an argument, because there's no ground for you to stand on. None. Absolutely none. We have a lot of work to do going forward. We have a lot of work to do going forward. Because what happened is that these people, the few people who actually knew in the past and in the present now, when they say anything, because they are mainly people of this country, they are looked down upon. Their ideas are snug that. Because, first of all, they're not kissing up to anyone. They're looking at it from a national perspective. Right? And they don't like that. They like you to be coming on your knees and to do not question anything once it's said by a certain clique of people and so on. But in the end, these people have always been proven to be correct. And now you see a lot of things being scrambled to be done, which should have been done 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. But they're now trying at this last minute to make it look like it was some new initiative. And they lack the real implementation program to make these things stick and be productive. Because I see a lot of them are stiff-necked fools. And it's only when the rubber meets the road and things get tight and they find themselves in a jam that they come up with these things. Yeah. So we're going to listen to a bit of Stiff-Necked Fools because we have to make sure that this new generation of youths, the youth that we have here, take a completely different approach to it so that by 2030, which is just 5 years from now, we are at a different level and we could go forward as a national people together to regain our market strength, our national significance in terms of our health. Walking up in Kingston today a bit, I was amazed at the number of obese children in school uniform. And I mean, I went to school all my young life in school I go, and I if you had one fat person in the class, you know who it is, and not any class in the school. Now you go in a class and over 20% of the children in the class are obese. It has nothing to do with the children. It has to do with the lack of knowledge of what they have and the lack of choices the family have, the parents have in buying the food that they feed them. So we're going to address this Stiff-Necked Fool now in song. If you have it lined up, bring it. Yes. We're here again. So we have to look at a fresh new approach to agriculture because it's needed for 2025 and beyond. And how do we start? What's needed? And what we have to do differently going forward? You see this road cleaning program that just started this week? Okay? I'm going to read details of the program because we know how they do the thing. Right. Get into the essentials. When we clean vegetation, like what we're doing now, I live in South Leeward. I live in Camptown, which is the capital of South Leeward. Okay? Our stuff goes mainly in terms of where they go to the government side, to Belial, landfill. Now, where you have this sort of vegetation in a country like this now, what we should have been doing, or what we should be doing, is like what they have been doing for decades in the French countries there. You take that material, first of all, you separate the material. Most of the material that you're cleaning from the road now would be biodegradable, vegetation material. So you already have a program where you're going to feed that now into composting to make compost. You already have that set up, the whole thing set up. So this material goes into that compost. So that 3, 4, 5 months down the road, farmers can go there to Belial and get a truckload of compost. Whether they have to pay for it, whatever, or it's free or whatever, but it should be available. Okay? So that compost now could go into the soil and add to the soil organic matter. But we're not thinking that way because agriculture is an afterthought in this whole economy. We think about how much small tourist boat come in the bay so that the government could get a head tax on each one, and a few hotels could make a little thing here. So this same money they make, 95% of it go back outside because they own it, we don't own it. That is how these things go. So I'm just showing you one aspect. That going forward, every time we clean areas where we have a large quantity, or we would have a large quantity of vegetable material, we already have to have plans to turn that material into compost, recycle it, so that it could go into the ground to feed the biology in the ground, produce more microbes, more organisms which would help to release nutrients to feed the plants. And so we keep going forward. Otherwise, we're just wasting time. It is the same thing we have to do with any vegetation that comes see, like the sargassum. The same thing we have to do with our livestock droppings and so on. We have to make sure that we replenish the earth. Replenish the earth going forward. Okay? Now, that is just one little aspect. So here we are having to feed a growing population. Well, our population hasn't grown really, so I shouldn't say growing population. We are one of the few countries in Venezuela, in the entire Americas, where our population has decreased over the last 15, 20 years. And we didn't have any internal wars. And at the same time, we have to improve health, the overall health of our people, because with this level of obesity, our productivity has gone down. The same is a direct correlation between the rise in obesity and the drop in productivity of our food. Definitely. Not just obesity alone, but obesity. Because it physically prevents people from doing certain things effectively. But workers, especially a female worker who could have worked 2-3 hours non-stop without even drinking some water, now they work 5-10 minutes, you're tired. You have to go and sit somewhere. Because of the garbage you're being given to eat, which makes you obese and unfit to do that kind of work. So our whole productivity, our workforce productivity has gone right down. We have lacked competitiveness in the region, and that is why one of the major reasons why agriculture is suffering. So we have to produce, first of all, we have to produce the proper foods that our people need. We have to stop importing the garbage that we're importing. There's some good food out there. If we import food, let us import good food. But we importing this garbage, and the only people who make money from the garbage are the people who trade in it and the government. Because they collect money at the port. They're not concerned about what happens down the road with consumption and so on. Not too concerned about that. This is the system that we're in. This is the system that we have to leave. And we have to leave it and come out of it. Like how these animals come out of a shell. Leave that shell, let them go by business. We have to make a metamorphosis, change, and move away from these things. One of the other things we have to do going forward is education. We have to change our total education system to make sure that industry, including agricultural industry and food industry, all sorts, fishing, everything, is an integral part of our general education system. From the preschool to the primary school to the secondary school to the tertiary level. We must make that happen. We have to decolonize our agricultural system, our education system. Decolonize it. Decolonize our educational system. We have to do that. And we have to put it in practice. And we have to keep sharpening the skills needed in agriculture by having serious skills training programs right through the year for different types of people in all aspects. Even people who maintain certain equipment and so on, we have to train these people and keep them sharp all the time. The other thing is that we have to invest in the right infrastructure. We must invest in the right infrastructure. We must do that in order to be able to transform our products from one state to the next, whether it's primary, to secondary, to tertiary, to one, so that they can have multiple uses and have a longer shelf life and have a better marketing opportunity. Apart from that, we're just wasting time. We're just wasting time. We had a sizable tourist liner in Kingston Harbor today. How many of those people ate anything that is grown in St. Vincent? What percentage of the visitors, of the people who came on the boat, most of them who didn't come ashore, of course. How many of them had a chance to sample something? Even those who came off and went down to places like Sandal, what local food did they get to eat? Because these hotels have very little pull. Never mind what they tell you, is the reality. We have very little pull on our local production. Because, and the second thing, our local production right now is right down to flowboat, catch. So we have to do all these things going forward properly. If we don't do that, we're wasting time. The funding for the sector has to be different. Must be different. Completely different. So that the needy people, the monies must reach the needy people. And the only way we can get all these things done is by having a different approach as a people to claim our rights collectively in this new system that is emerging and all. We have to identify ourselves, claim our identity, and move as one, and make sure that what is due to us, what is really due to us, comes to us. And we don't have any ism and schism that's preventing us from getting it, and putting some people to rule and reign over us who have absolutely no authority to do. We have to wake up and see the light and follow the light and keep stepping into the light. Otherwise we're wasting time. We're wasting time. In terms of the technology going forward, and they make the technology is only to make better use of what the song said about the natural things. Take the sun and the moon and the rain and the stars. Because those are the things, those are still things, those are all the three things that will be there forever. And have to be based on our food production system, have to be based on those. You can't supplement these things with anything close or anything artificial. You're just wasting time. But we could increase and augment the use of technology to make these things, to make it easier to work with these things for us. Much more so. And that is what we have to teach our youth going forward. And once we do that, then within a decade, if we do that within a decade, we could eliminate poverty in this country. It might look like a great mountain to climb, but we have to make the first step. We can do it. The will is what we need. The will is there. The way is there. Don't make them tell you anything different. The will is there. Indeed, the way is there. Some people know the way, but the will is what we have to get. And that is when you stop to now see who are weak and who are strong. One of the principal things going forward in this thing is the use and the management of the land itself. You need to have a system where the farmer, the farm family, the investing institutions, whether local, regional, or foreign, outside the region, know that the tenure of the country is secure, and no farming organization could lose use of the land by some slickly writing some document and claiming it belonging to the province. No. We have to find the will to make sure that the truth, which is the first principle of our ancestors, rules supreme. Truth, when we know the truth, it will bring order. When we get the order, we find the balance. When we find the balance, we generate the harmony. We generate the harmony, we stick when we agree to the law, which will be binding on everyone. Okay? And then we add to that morality, and everybody gets the justice. Apart from that, we ain't going anywhere. We ain't going anywhere. And we have to go somewhere. We must go somewhere and go fast. Because we have to increase both our production and our productivity significantly in this country in order to stem the disaster that is facing us headlong. The health disaster, where our people are getting obese by the minute, where people are consuming a lot of fake, false food, fraud food, without them knowing, every day, sometimes more than once a day, where people mind get taken by vanity instead of reality, where people are not taught to work and develop and do business together. We cannot let 2025 come and meet us in the same state where there is no strong traffickers or vendors organization, where there are no strong farmers or fisher folk organization. Right? And where these organizations together are not strong at the national level to form one bond, and where there are no development institutions to really develop, not just overdevelop. Development is lacking in the country, real development. That's where we have to go. We can't go anywhere else, people. You choose to go anywhere else, you let your tide to be rock yourself and go to come some deep, somewhere deep in the water. They want them fish folk came out in the morning and put 2 bowls on your foot and you say goodbye and that's it. You jump overboard. Because you're wasting time. It's not the time to waste time. This is not the time to waste time. We have to develop new products. I'm talking about new products. I want to pick up on this program my herbalist sister. You're doing a fantastic job, sister, and keep it up. I mean, there are others who are doing a fantastic job too, but I'm begging you up tonight. You have to do a fantastic job. We have 3 more people like you with need in the place, and we have real medicine. We take care of the ailments and the sickness of people just like that, naturally. And that's going to happen. And that new product that we have just developed, which we are now market testing, which the public will hear more about very soon. That's a winner. We're not going to get much more about that right now. Because we have to guard our intellectual property also. But that is one of the reasons why they have been oppressing and suppressing certain things in this country. But now we are on the verge of a massive, massive breakthrough. Big up to you and your whole team. Yeah, we have to develop in this country our food, agriculture, and health sectors in such a way that we become a beacon in the region. A beacon. That we transform this so-called tourism sector to a real sector where it is harmonized with other sectors so that, you see, like now this time of the night, we have at least 1,000 to 1,500 tourists overnighting on the mainland. Not just in hotels, but mingling with the people and with the different areas. Outside of that, the university tourism makes no sense. If we cannot attract people here to come and spend real money, provide a real environment in terms of their own personal safety and the products they need, and we ourselves develop ourselves to be healthy, then we're not talking to them, we're talking some other kind of ism. We have to ensure that all these things pull very hard from our food, culture, and entertainment sectors, and housing sectors also. Outside of that, you're not talking economics, you're talking garbage and just empty politics. And this is not the time for it. This definitely is not the time for it. Yeah, that's what we have to do. We have to develop these things because everything depends on that. Our sports people, our artists, our craftsmen, craftwomen, our journalists, our radio, our news, our media people, all these people, the living, all these people depend on how strong our economy and our health sector, our food and health sector are. Anytime no single week, but the thing will fall apart. And this is not the time for things to fall apart. So we have to be brave, we have to be strong, we have to be loving, we have to be united going forward. I am looking forward to the blessing of the Almighty that by the time we say they set their goal to 2030, but we know that their goals are not our goals. Their goals are for them to try and overrule us, but we're not falling into that trap. We're looking for a goal here by 2030. And when you walk the streets of Kingston on the Tuesday like today or when they like tomorrow, you don't meet somebody begging for $1 every 15 steps you make. Because people needs will have been met. People needs will be met. Especially their basic needs when it comes to things like food. We have what it takes here to put it together. What we're lacking is the will and the self-confidence and the oneness to work together as people. Remember, it was just about 1990. 1990, that's 34 years ago, just a generation ago, when they started the clamor and the false rumor, the lie that coconut oil had bad cholesterol, and everybody went heading for the hills, not wanting to really suss it out and check it out. And our coconut industry, our local coconut industry went right down to naught. And look at today, the best products you could find health-wise, whether you're using it in food or in medicine or in skincare products, have coconut oil at the base. Look at that. Same coconut that they were demonizing. That's just one example. That only needs to tell you how fraudulent Babylon is. Babylon is a real fraud. And we're going to call them out. We're going to call them out. We're going to ask Rima to help us call them out. The system is a fraud. Because we know that we could grow real food and make real medicine in this place to heal people instead of imbibing, importing. So we call it out the system because Babylon system is a fraud. Over to you, bro. Yes. And while we are waiting for that Yes, people, the system is a big, big fraud. But despite that, remember to keep your head up, work together. Those of you who have got to see from the indigenous movement in America, the few of you have gotten see, I hope that you're making the best use of them. If you haven't set anything as yet, this is the week, starting tomorrow, make sure you have everything, you have your pot, and soil mix, you have your seeds and so on, you have your seedling trays. Go ahead and set all those whatever needed vegetables you have. And the other vegetables like the sweet peppers and so on, you get ready to set those next week. Make sure you get something in the ground, right? And what you can share it if it's when it comes to the seedling stage, share it with your neighbor. If you're doing some little container planting, remember not to use any old rubber tires because these things are toxic, you know. But you can get an old bucket and make some holes in it and mix up your potted soil properly, and, get it in and transplant and keep it there. Store as much water as you can going forward, and when you're collecting water, keep the containers. If it's not a tank itself, if it's a drum, keep it closed because you don't want to spread the multiplication of mosquitoes. So you take care, have a great week. Until next Tuesday, when we'll be here again by the blessing of the Almighty and the our ancestors. Stay strong, stay smart, stay loving, work together, and take care of yourself and your family. With that, I make an excellent start to the next week. Respect.